Oh, yes.
Welcome back once again, everyone. Today we're taking a look at the brand new Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom number 6. This is the Autobot Warpath. It's a little strange seeing an Autobot in Beast Wars style packaging, but as you know, Kingdom is a mixture of Generation 1 and Beast Wars characters. So this new Warpath toy is a modern update on his classic toy and cartoon design. As such, is a little more, childlike looking than the more recent Deluxe offering in Generations. But for people that didn't like that version and wanted something closer to the cartoon, we now have this take on him. So if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Warpath's packaging, then we'll open it up, we'll look at his Reveal Your Fate card, we'll look at the instructions, and then we'll see Warpath himself in both his vehicle and robot modes. Naturally, I'll be doing some group shots and comparisons today, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So Warpath comes in your standard Kingdom Deluxe packaging with the little half window here. You can see him just big old chest cannon poking out, leaning back a bit just to get him to fit in the window. Then you can see his big artwork here. You got the vehicle mode, robot mode, got the arc on top of Volcano. Not quite as much going on in his picture as, say, Black Arachnia's, but still pretty cool. On the top, you can see your little peg flap with an Autobot symbol, your Autobot cave drawing, weird runes. Kind of looks like the Instagram icon, doesn't it? Turn them around, you get your renders of the toy, which are a much brighter red than the finished product, and luckily he's not that bright red. He's much closer to his more maroon-like coloration. But he takes 26 steps to transform back and forth between vehicle and robot modes. They actually still have the city-state symbols listed for the Generation 1 type characters, so that's interesting. They're still carrying that theme over from, Siege. So they haven't forgotten that. They're still letting you know, the rank and location of each of these guys, so very neat. And then on the side, you just get your standard Kingdom side panel. All right, our Fate Reveal card for Warpath is Dinobot, again. It's interesting because Black Arachnia just had Dinobot in there. So here's his little foil sticker card front. Golden disc on the back, which is very appropriate for Dinobot. All right, let's go ahead and peel this and see what we... Oh, no. Well, this appears to be the same exact card I got with Black Arachnia. So, that's a shame. But if you haven't seen it, it's a Dinobot. Got a Maximal and Predacon symbol, and his little fate reveal in the Autobot text is Leads United Factions. So, I guess he takes over both factions in some timeline. Boy, what a letdown. So, I guess I didn't know up until this point whether or not the cards were randomly packed, but I guess this kind of confirms it. You can end up with doubles and be very sad and disappointed for it. Boo, guys, boo. Well, after that disappointing reveal, let's move on to the instructions. And you get Warpath's render right here. Cool green glyph thing, which I wonder if that'll ever come into play at some point. Name, symbol, all that. Open everything up. Then you get just a plain render here. Little how-to on where to store his shield. The recommended place is his shoulder. Kind of an odd place for a shield. I kind of like it more on the forearm, but whatever works. And then we get the transformation from robot to tank, which finishes up on the back here. Very vibrant green, isn't it? Really pops on the camera. Shows you how you're going to kind of store his shield to help complete the tank look. And then the finished product. So here we finally see Warpath in his vehicle mode. And you can see it's finally not an H-tank. I know a lot of people just hate the H-tank thing, so you finally get something much closer to the shape of the original toy. The little turret here spins in a full 360, which is nice. Your cannon can raise, lower, and mostly stays in place. There's some positions where it's a little looser than others, but overall pretty good. He's slightly gappy, especially right here, but it's not too bad. Holds together pretty nicely. And you can see your typical fake treads with wheels underneath. He rolls very well, so that is awesome. Not all these, Transformer vehicle modes end up rolling like they're supposed to. Now, one thing I want to point out, as you can see, his front section, it's kind of trying to pull itself apart. And I don't know if it's just a thing with my copy and its tolerances, but the only thing really holding this front section together is the shield piece. And if you remove that, you just get this. So that's really annoying. Now, luckily, the vehicle is not really complete till the shield piece is in place, so it should always be holding it together, but the problem is it's only holding it in the very front, which leaves this to want to gap out a bit. So just be aware that may happen to your copy. It's a shame. It's not a, awful deal-breaking issue, just a slight gap. I mean, kind of used to that as a Transformer collector by now, but it is annoying. It'd be nice if it stayed together better. There's also kind of a slight color matching problem here, and it's really brought on by the fact that a surprising amount of this figure is actually cast in white plastic. A lot of it. Basically, almost everything that isn't the lighter shade of red, because you see you got two shades here, like a lighter one and a darker one. Almost everything that's not the lighter shade is actually painted white plastic, so just be aware. They went nuts with this, and it does cause some color matching. Now, the plus side is it makes, him not being just all one color makes him a little more interesting looking, but it's a little less accurate too. So overall, tank mode's pretty nice. Got some 5mm ports along the side, which are great for, arming them up. Everything works the way it's supposed to on a tank, and looks pretty good despite the slight tolerance problems. I approve. Here's Warpath along with his Generation 1 counterpart. Specifically, this is the vintage reissue from Walmart, but it's not identical to the original release. And you can see how close they got it. There's still a slight bit of a gap in the front here, where the treads just go out a little further than the main body that the original doesn't have, but it's pretty minor. Everything else is pretty spot on to the original shape, especially the turret section where it's very rounded, almost cartoonishly so, and it's got that little hatch top right there. So yeah, I'd say it's a really nice update so far. Here's a group shot with my least favorite of the Warpath toys. This is the Combiner Wars Warpath, and is probably the biggest departure from the source design. And that's because it's simply just a new head retool of the Thrilling 30 Legends Megatron. As such, while the tank kind of hits the major beats, despite the fact that the turret section is way too large and, kind of flat and broad looking, the robot mode is going to be way, way off. And you'll see that here toward the end. And now we get one of my favorite Warpath figures. This is the Generations Warpath, which for the longest time was considered like the Warpath toy. If you were going to have, a Chug update, and you didn't mind the fact that he was bigger than, most of the other mini-bots, this was the go-to for the longest time. And I really, really love this figure. He is a great update. Now, since we have something that's more of a just direct upgrade to the original design, I can kind of retire this guy as my Neo G1 Warpath and, put him along with either Classics or IDW collection, because he did appear in this form in those comics. But you can see that in the tank mode, this is another pretty big departure from the original design. He is the dreaded H-Tank, and kind of even worse than an H-Tank because he's even got a split between the front and back treads. And, very different colors. He's much darker than most Warpaths, and swaps out the lighter, light gray or whitish colors for a much deeper, like a gunmetal or dark silver. But he's doing his own thing. And again, I see him as just some upgraded form of Warpath, or, the character in a different continuity than just the original. So yeah, two very contrasting designs, both really awesome in my opinion. Okay, let's do our transformation now. So the first thing you want to do is remove that shield piece. Just go ahead, pull it free from the 4 tabs that hold it on there. And you're going to kind of pull these leg sections apart and kind of one at a time bend them out so you can get the arms free. Like that. Now, we want to take these little middle sections here, like a little hinge bit, fold that down, it over there. Okay, you want to fold these in like that. Bring this out. Rotate the foot down. Fold this all the way around. So we want all this to go down inside this like foot piece here. Rotate the leg forward, and then this little bit in the back, you're gonna rotate all the way in, like so. Let's say you get one leg. See, it's got this ankle tilt here. So do the same thing here. That. Foot down, bring it all around. There we go, just like this. So the next thing we want to do, pop this free. So we're gonna kind of push it up and in, fold this panel inward, and rotate it all the way down. Just push it down. All right, then we're gonna pull this panel back here, flip the head out like so, push this back in, make sure it locks in place. You're gonna bring this whole back and shoulder section up until that pops into place. His arms, you're gonna bend the elbows a bit, rotate these little extra tread bits down inside, like so. The same thing here. And let's push his chest cannon in. All right. Get it all fixed up. Here he is. Here's Warpath. So this is him in his purest form. Most G1 accurate, but of course he's still got his shield piece. Now, like I said, you could put it on his forearm if you want to, like this, or maybe even like so, which I think would be the most practical way to store it. But the official place is actually here on his shoulder, like this. Which, I mean, I guess that works, but I don't know. Doesn't seem very useful. All right, so here is Warpath, and you can see he's quite a small deluxe. Which, you know, kind of makes sense because he is one of the mini-bots. And the other mini-bots we've gotten in War for Cybertron so far have been small deluxes. There's somewhere between a legend-sized toy or a core class toy and a more standard-sized deluxe. So they're kind of splitting the difference. They tend to be a bit big compared to their peers from older toy lines, like Titan's Return and all that. But not overly so to where they just don't look like they could possibly be part of the same group. Now Warpath, he gets to be a little bit bigger than like the Cliffjumper mold family, but he's a tank, so, you know, if any of them are going to be big, it's going to be him. So, as far as the figure itself, its tolerances, the head is on a ball joint, so it can turn all the way around, a bunch of different ways, which is great. Shoulders are universal joints. He's got bicep swivel. He's got a single elbow. He has wrist swivel, so that's really good. He has waist swivel, but it's greatly hindered by this little flap of kibble here. Now, you can lift this to give him more clearance, and I think that was intentional. I think it's supposed to lift up. So that is good. The hips, fixed. They're universal as well. Pretty standard stuff. Very high thigh swivel, single bend knees. And he's got a little bit ankle rock, not much though, because not much clearance, but mostly ankle tilt. And his ankle tilt's kind of weird. For one, it kind of gets stuck if you swing it too far. This piece kind of pops out of its little socket there. But also, it's like not his whole foot that really tilts. This whole, what you would think is his heel, actually remains stationary, so it's just this part. And it does look a little weird, I'm not going to lie. Not the best execution in my opinion, but it'll work. It'll do what it has to do. And overall, I think he looks really good. He manages to capture that mini-bot aesthetic without actually being a small, simple toy. And I'm kind of gravitating toward this a little more. Like, yeah, kind of stinks because he's $20 just like a full-size deluxe would be, and probably not getting the most bang for your buck as far as, plastic. But I can't argue with the results. He's a lot more impressive and intricate than I could ever hope for Legends or Core Class. Here again, we get the original Warpath, and kind of a goofy looking toy. I can't say he was the most well executed of the original mini-bots because his feet are just one tread section of a tank. They don't separate or anything. So it kind of reminds me of the original Battle Trap toy, because I think he had the same issue. Sorry, not Battle Trap. Flywheels. Flywheels had the same issue, where he just kind of rose up out of his tank treads like that. And he also, his head doesn't really turn by itself. He just got to turn the turret section, which looks even more bizarre. So definitely an improvement over the original design, but it does a really great job of capturing the spirit of it. It kind of has everything where it's supposed to be. He's got the turret in his chest. The cannon on the original doesn't actually retract, so it looks a little goofy. But he's got, the treads on his arms, he's got the treads on his feet, and he really works. Now, he had some extra details that were from the cartoon, like having the white band across his face and all that, and swapping out gray for more, white colors. So he's a really interesting blend of toy aesthetic, cartoon aesthetic, and then just also realistic detailing aesthetic. I mean, tanks typically have a lot of surface detailing to them, so I'm glad he captured that. Here's the toy that I shall henceforth refer to as Worst Path. Like I said, he just really doesn't feel like a proper Warpath toy. Aside from the new head that, overall matches the design, nothing about him really screams Warpath to me. I mean, his cannon's not even in his chest anymore, it's on his arm, because again, it's a Megatron retool. And, I never really liked this. He's kind of like the Combiner Wars Huffer and Pipes, where they were just Optimus with a new head. Thankfully, we're getting a new Huffer and Pipes in Kingdom to go along with this Warpath, so they took 3 characters that got half-hearted toys in Combiner Wars several years ago, and have now given us really nice updates for them. I can't wait to get that Huffer. He looks cool, by the way. He's in Wave 2, and then Pipes is reserved for a future wave. We haven't seen pictures of him yet. But yeah, we have come a long way, and I'm so happy they didn't leave us hanging and just said, there you go, there's Warpath, guys. Deal with it. We actually got something really good. Now, I know my disdain for this toy isn't very universal. I know a lot of people actually prefer this over the old Generations Deluxe because they like the scale better. They want him to be small like the other mini-bots. And if that's your bag and you're willing to ignore just the huge inaccuracies with this, more power to you. If that's what you want, that's what you want. Can't tell you how to collect. But for me, he just never did it for me. And now we get the bad boy himself. And again, easily one of my favorite Warpath toys. I mean, it's not like we have a lot to choose from, but I really like this guy. Now, as far as just pure aesthetic quality, not taking into account accuracy of the cartoon or anything, I still think I like this toy better than the new one. He's just much more intimidating looking. He's just heavily armed. He looks awesome. He looks like you took a mini-bot and then you just utterly jacked him up on upgrades. I love that aesthetic. Doesn't mean he's necessarily better than the Kingdom one, because they're each doing their own thing, but for me personally, I like the more serious aesthetic that this toy brings. He looks like a real war machine, and for a character named Warpath, I think that's kind of necessary. This dude, I think, suffers from having an utter lack of weapons. He's got the one chest cannon, and that's it. So yeah, honestly, the only thing I think this toy's really lacking is ankle tilt. It doesn't have any, but it's also from a time when ankle tilt was not common, at least not Deluxes, so I can kind of forgive that. If they just re-engineered him with some ankle tilt, I'd say he's easily the best one. But maybe I'm just biased, I don't know. I will say, though, this guy was good enough to go ahead and get several redecos and retools from the club, so I think it's safe to say it was a pretty popular design. Alright. So now that we've seen Warpath in his 2 modes, and we've compared him to all the different versions of the character. In fact, I think that's really all of them, right? Were there any other official Warpaths? I think that's it. Just G1, Generations, Combiner Wars. I think that's all they have. So he's not a guy that gets a ton of love. But I am happy that they are bringing us a Warpath that really does fit the G1 with elbows aesthetic that Generations has really been going for since pretty much Combiner Wars onward. Before that, it was still kind of following classics with being more of a reimagining or redesigning of characters. So he scratches that itch, and I'm really happy he exists. Would I have been eternally happy with the Generations one? Yeah, I would have felt content with that. But I will say that having another take on him that is much more faithful to the original design is also nice. And it's really nice to see what they can do with this character after getting a real dud in the form of the Combiner Wars toy. So I recommend picking this dude up. Even if you have another version of Warpath, I think he's different enough to warrant the double dip because he really fits in with that pure Generation 1 aesthetic that Hasbro's been going for lately. So, yeah, whenever this guy becomes available, I know he's a bit of an oddball in the first wave because he's the only non-Beast Wars character in the first Deluxe wave, but I think you'll like him. Naturally, though, that is just my opinion of the toy. Now, what I really want to know is what you all think of the new Warpath. Do you think he's the best one yet, or do you prefer another version of the character? Do you see any flaws with this toy that you would have liked to see fixed, or is he just perfect for you? Any and all feedback's always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. And thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Autobot Warpath. And with all that said, I will see you next time.